Thanks, Anna. I unfortunately missed the Blue Lagoon party to be here with you this afternoon, so we'll see how that works out. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about the Canadian portion of the Primefish initiative. I guess just to start very briefly, to echo the comments of a number of others this morning, I just wanted to congratulate certainly the EU and the Commission for its leadership on the Horizon 2020 initiative, the linkages to the blue ocean economy and the focus specifically on the oceans, and then really leveraging that in terms of the Galway Declaration and encouraging these collaborations. Many of us are actually here today, and these collaborations we're talking about are a result of that leadership. So I think it's just important to mention that. So I'm going to briefly talk about Primefish Canada. I think I have about 5 slides, so certainly 5 minutes or less, and I'll be through those. A very brief commercial, which I do from time to time. So we are a campus, our Marine Institute is a campus of Memorial University in Newfoundland, and we certainly promote ourselves as North America's most comprehensive institute dedicated to education, training, applied research, and industrial support for the oceans industry. So we are essentially everything oceans with respect to industrial applied R&D and training. Very briefly, we have a number of specialized centers, and I certainly won't take you through all of these centers. I'll bring your attention probably to 3 that fall within the responsibility of my school. We've got a Center for Sustainable Aquatic Resources that will be linked to this particular initiative, which houses the largest flume tank or gear testing tank in the world. I'll mention that more in my next presentation, so I won't go into any detail there. We have a Center for Aquaculture and Seafood Development, which focuses really on the post-harvest side of the industry. That's the center that will be leading this particular initiative on behalf of the Canadian component. And we also have a Center for Fisheries Ecosystems Research, which we created 5 years ago. Shameless promotion here again for Peter Heffernan showing the Celtic Explorer. He's gotten lots of attention here today for good reason. We're about a week away, or a week or less away from embarking on our 5th consecutive year of partnership with the Irish Marine Institute. My colleague Ron Newhook will talk a little more about that tomorrow, but we're certainly very pleased with that partnership. So what are the main objectives of Primefish Canada? There's really 2. One is, and taken from the Primefish initiative overall, one is to enhance the economic sustainability of Canada's fisheries and aquaculture sectors through collaboration with our lead in Matis, who is a great partner of ours, and a broader consortium that Anna has talked about on the EU Horizon 2020 initiative. Second, and really in some ways almost most importantly certainly, or equal of importance, is to better predict seafood market behavior based on simulation and forecasting models developed by Primefish. This is meant to be very practical, very applied, and very commercially relevant to all North Atlantic states involved in the initiative. In terms of the approach, our approach is twofold, and it's somewhat unique. I guess first, we are participating in 6 of the 7 program work packages. So all the work packages that Anna outlined in her presentation, 7 of the 8, other than the management, we're involved in all and feeding into that process. In addition to that, we've worked out a partnership arrangement with Matis and our other partners where we're going to conduct a parallel exercise with Canadian stakeholders to target 4 key species of importance to Canada, because at the end of the day, for our engagement to be relevant, it's got to be relevant to our industry, certainly in Canada as well. So Atlantic salmon, Atlantic cod, northern shrimp, and snow crab will be the 4 species that we'll target. We will merge the results of that work with the EU component of the program. The results will be incorporated into the software tools that Anna has already discussed, and they'll be made available to project participants on an ongoing basis. So that's how it's envisioned at the end of the 4-year period. Very briefly, there are a number of Canadian drivers as to why we would be interested in this from an industry standpoint, but overall. The CETA ratification, of course, the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement between Canada and the EU is certainly a significant driver. Upon ratification of that agreement, I believe about 96% of all of our seafood products will become tariff-free, which is extremely important, certainly for our industry, given the EU has an annual import value of about $25 billion Canadian. The Canadian seafood industry, as many of you probably know, is export-driven, nearly a $5 billion industry. In 2014, in terms of export sales, about $500 million, I believe, came into the EU, but certainly with the ratification of the agreement, that would no doubt grow. Growing production costs and labor force issues. We have an aging workforce in our country. In the province that I'm from in particular, the average age of a worker in the industry is approaching 60 years of age. We have some massive issues in the coming years that we're going to have to deal with. This program can contribute to that. Increasing global competition is another major consideration, particularly for North Atlantic states. Very difficult for us to compete on cost, certainly with low-cost producers and species such as tilapia, pangasius, warm water shrimp, and so on. We have to get innovative, creative in terms of how we address those things. Technological advances, we're making major innovations now in robotics. We have engineers working on robotics in the seafood processing sector to deal with that labor force challenge that's on the horizon. We have very complex seafood value chains, right, from the small boat harvesters right through to large vertically integrated companies. So understanding that is critically important. And fisheries regime shift, and I'm not sure, you're probably not overly familiar with this here, but it appears we are about to embark on a bit of a regime shift in our neck of the woods. Our very lucrative shellfish species, which probably constitute close to 80% of the value of the industry in my province, Newfoundland and Labrador, is declining. And we're seeing a significant increase now in groundfish. So the iconic northern cod that you're all familiar with, the iconic collapse in '92, we're not back there yet by no means, but we're seeing some significant signs of recovery, both the research that we're conducting as well as our partners in the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. So some really encouraging signs, but that creates a whole host of challenges as to how we deal with that. And re-diversifying our industry back to groundfish is going to create a lot of challenges. We hope this program will contribute. My final slide in terms of benefits to Canada. So if I look at the overall benefits to Canada, certainly there's an opportunity to contribute data to Primefish and through the Horizon 2020 project, gain valuable knowledge and insight about the competitive performance of the European fisheries and aquaculture sectors and marketplace. Best practices is critically important for us, certainly. Peer comparison of Canadian fisheries and aquaculture sectors with the EU, I think, is extremely important. And access to simulation and prediction models to improve production planning, forecasting, and new product development opportunities. For our industry, that's the value proposition. That's how we're going to get our industry directly engaged in this work. As I mentioned, just to finish off, I just finished 2 days in Iceland with our project partners, and I can tell you how exciting it is to spend 2 days with 15 different institutions, all with a common goal to address an issue such as this that has tremendous industrial application and benefits for all the states involved is critical. Because at the end of the day, this is really about global food security, and we all know the challenges that we have on the horizon over the coming years with global population growth, environmental challenges, and climate change, so on and so forth. The growth, there's going to be limited growth, I mean, in my view at least, on the green economy side. I think we're going to see a lot of growth in the blue economy, and we have to put a tremendous amount of effort to ensure it's done sustainably, responsibly, and certainly for the benefit of all of us. So with that, thank you very much.